going for a Yone, a Vi. Now, wonder if they're going to be giving up the Nefiri or if they're going to be looking for something a little bit different, maybe another 80 carry.
Okay, Gwen taken. Is this now where we see Rumble go? Because usually those are traded. And maybe we see the Rumble taken early doors, but Meiko is one of those engaged supports that was seeing a lot of bans being picked up, so gonna have that picked up to begin with, and now the engaged threat is already put onto IG.
Yeah, so expecting maybe a Kalista lane, especially coming out from Elk. I'm interested. I think the fact that coming into playoffs, there was a lot of questions. I know that Nefiri did get changed on this patch to have a little bit less passive damage towards monsters, but I still feel like she is a really strong champion, and the fact that she is dropping throughout this ban phase, or this pick ban, very interesting to see from our two teams, was permanently banned in that TES FPX series just before this.
Yes, and if it just does just drop the whole way through, that would be a shock. There's the Kalista that you highlighted, going to be picked up for Elk. Notably picked with the Poppy as well. One of those really strong counters to Kalista is if you take Poppy into the support role. Steadfast Presence makes Kalista nigh on impossible to play, but it's a really good pairing to take, and one of those picks that can be flexed up to the top lane, but expecting it to be in Beichuan's hands.
So what are we going to get from Rookie? I feel like you look at this draft right now, you see that they have pretty low range. They have a Poppy as well. Azir starts to get a little bit of value, but instead they want to try to give Rookie one of his most iconic champions here in the LPL. So some really strong setup and some really long range, I think, from IG in their ultimates.
Yeah, I mean, this is already a very good mid to long range composition. It depends what Gala's going to go with, but there's an opportunity here for that Jhin, that Ashe style of carry to go into that bot side to try and match Kalista. I mean, Ashe is notoriously one of those counter pick AD carries that you can take into Kalista. So we'll see what it is that Gala's going through, even though Ashe has really dropped off in priority as of late. And you'll notice as well, BLG here not banning away the engaged supports, looking more so at those poke threats that can go toe-to-toe with Kalista Meiko. We've seen in the past, if you try to play engage onto Kalista Meiko, that they can just poke you out, they can sit behind their minions, and you can tend to struggle. So banning away these poke champions that you can try and trade long range with seems to be their sort of idea to get back into this and keep their bot lane thriving.
So I want to throw a champion at you. What do you think about Leona here for IG? I feel like having that long range ability to start fights feels really good against what BLG are showing, and you can kind of pseudo play around the steadfast presence of a champion like Poppy.
Yeah, Leona's good for a look here. You can, again, look for that long-range engage. You can put the ball on the Leona, and then you've got somebody to go in with. The issue there is, I think, landing Zenith Blade onto Kalista is typically a pretty difficult challenge. And what you may end up seeing, and that's not that you can't bypass it, right? You just flash in and Q. But it's in those late-game situations can be quite tricky. And I do like this from Gala, just taking that long-range support, right? Like, BLG got rid of the Ashe because it's a really good answer to Kalista. The next long-range utility marksman is that Jhin, and we're looking at the carry or the composition that BLG have drafted for themselves. There's no range here. Kalista thrives when she can get in and dance around in your face. Meiko, the same thing, needs to be flashing in, and then we've got 3 melee carries outside of that. Long range for IG is going to be their friend. If they can space BLG, keep them at an arm's length, that's going to be their way to succeed. And I will say, it did just get a lot harder with those double lock-ins of the Ambessa Galio.
Yeah, they're going for dive from the side of BLG. They want to make sure that if they're going for a fight, it is all in. Public execution from the Ambessa to be able to follow up alongside the Galio. You have so much crowd control from the side of BLG. We need to see them play early in this game. Whereas for Invictus Gaming, I mean, you have point-and-click stuns, right, with this Pantheon. At any time, you can just find CC. You can layer that with the Leona ult as well. I think the range that they operate with is really good. Just being able to protect some of that backline is going to come under fire when you look at what BLG have.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a difficulty. Maybe we see some defensive shockwaves, but I will call that. I think that for me in particular, TheShy has to have a really good game. Those Electro Harpoons are going to be crucial when spacing those little poke situations that we're going to see. Set up around objectives, how well it is that TheShy keeps himself at distance, but also sort of tethers what BLG can do in those setups is going to be really important. Marking as well, right? Like if we see a little bit of a flank angle come through from Bin, if we end up seeing Knight just go for a little bit of a different angle of approach, we need to see somebody from IG spotting that out, because if a Galio gets onto your backline for free, if an Ambessa gets onto your backline unchecked, that's when disaster's going to strike, and that's when all the dominoes can start crashing down around IG.
All right, early game, do we feel like it is up to Bilibili to kind of get a lot of stuff done? I feel like you look at their items, they're going to be really strong on 1 and 2 items, but kind of fall off. Maybe Callista gets a little bit more value once you get 4 and 5, but for IG, is this like a situation where how many Drakes are we willing to give up? Are we looking to try to play around Grubs? Like,
yeah, no, that's pretty much it, is that when you've hit that first item, maybe even second, that you're gonna feel pretty confident with this mid-game composition, right? You've got Callista, Poppy, 2 really solid early game threats. You've got Ambessa, who can thrive on 1 item.
okay, there we go.
Some good shots.
The stadium here at in Beijing is packed and ready to watch IG versus BLG. It's game 1 of their first series here in round 1 of the playoffs. And we had just saw this matchup between these two teams. It was their last series before the end of the regular season. Some good damage down onto Elk to start, half HP before the laning phases even started. And there's no time for Elk to respawn, to recall. So this Halo Blades Callista is going to have to get a lot of dirty work done here. And there's an early ward.
Yeah, that face check from Elk, unfortunately, may have just cost them like all of their buying power in the laning phase. He early sips on a potion, but Meiko sat on a ward as well, going to trade his HP right on back.
Wow.
And maybe just a little bit of an equalization there. The potion advantage for Gala is going to be pretty huge, and this is now where you need to see On do a lot of work, right? He's got Comet, he's taking Q level 1, so he's going to be poking quite heavily and try to whittle down some of the HP of Gala.
Ooh, and look at this right now. Top side of the map, Jiejie spotted on the Raptors, but is immediately skipping the rest of his top side camps and will be making a beeline once he hits level 3. Wonder what his options are going to be like, and if BLG will necessarily be able to get that priority that they wanted by having this double range bot lane.
So they need to kind of crash this wave super early. They'll be looking for a 3rd wave crash usually to try and maybe sync that recall for Elk, given he took that pretty rough trade early doors. But if they're trying to avoid this Pantheon gank, they need to set up for a pretty early recall here. And fortunately, you know, we're going to see a little bit of scouting out here and finally a little bit of pinging. Yeah, okay. They now know exactly where the Pantheon is, and they should be feeling a little more comfortable.
Yeah, like you said, wave is going to bounce back towards them. So feeling okay for BLG. Beichuan just gets to continue going throughout his normal jungle pathing here. And, you know, looking across the lanes right now, you have a minor advantage for Elkanon despite the early trade. Knight is kind of holding himself accountable in the mid lane, and we're still waiting to see a little bit more action, especially because these two junglers are playing champions that really want to get a little bit of work done in the early game.
Yeah, we are not looking at your Wukongs, your Jarvans, that hit level 6 and then start going kind of champions. Pantheon Poppy can be in your lane from level 2, so whichever one of these two it is that decides to get a little more active on the map that little bit faster could end up having a pretty big impact on this series and on this game number 1 in particular. Full clears finished up now for Beichuan. You can see that Jiejie, with that slightly adverse pathing, is going to be a little bit delayed to getting to that top side crab and may even have to give it up, given the way that this top lane is going. Already looking at that bot side though. Beichuan spotted on a ward. It should give the information over, but looking at how this bot side is going, Gala and Meiko under a little bit of fire here.
Okay, they've got a lot of summoner spells. Everybody still has flash. There's a cleanse available for both of our AD carries. I think for right now it's just going to be Beichuan shadowing onto this side of the map, protecting his bottom lane and making sure that they get themselves across. It'll be a turret plate going over to Elk and On, already showing off some of that 2v2 prowess that we had saw early on.
Yeah, this is the power that Callista Nico will give you here. Taunt early. Oh, he's no E now.
Uh-oh. He has no ability to dash away, but that phase rush is doing magic. He's going to also get the flash out from Knight after he's TP'd, so now he's got a lot of HP to still play with, but that is a good find and a good punish from Invictus Gaming. Yeah,
well played there by IG. Jiejie there just flexes into the mid lane and finds himself a quick flash, which never going to be too hard done by. So we are seeing this top side get a little bit volatile here. Again, looking at our junglers, who's up here. Beichuan could make a path up, would have to sacrifice his full clear on that cross down to the bot side, but early base from TheShy, TP's back in, not going to miss out on really anything here. And it's just a good little look for Bin early doors, finding the early punish onto this Rumble.
A side objective that I do want to kind of put on this game is watching Bin on this Ambessa. I feel like in years past, one of Bin's biggest criticisms is the fact that he doesn't necessarily pick up champions very easily. It takes him a couple weeks to really feel comfortable and play. Oh, he's taping towards bottom lane. We're seeing a full-on swap here. I need to see Bin perform on this Ambessa because early on into the season, a big part of the reason BLG were even faltering alongside their jungle woes is Bin was making a lot of pretty big errors, and with the introduction of champions like Yorick and Ambessa to the meta, he's had some woes on figuring out what his champion pool is going to be, especially executing in a fearless system.
So, with that all said, I mean, Bin, you know, on the Ambessa this time around, we got to see a flash of the graphics. He's 3-2 so far this season on the Ambessa, so has certainly had, I mean, for a team that's won a significant number more of their games than they've lost, that ratio is pretty down there for top laners for Bin. But TPing down to this bot side and being matched as well by TheShy does suggest that the power on these dragons, hold on, level 6...
Oh, there's the public execution. TheShy, no ultimate here. So it is all these Drakehound steps, the empowered auto attacks, just ripping this Rumble apart. He's going to get close to overheating, trying to equalize some of the HP between these two. Pantheon is nowhere near level 6. He has to get another minion wave or maybe another jungle camp before he's going to be near this. And that'll just mean that BLG, they're going to use this priority. They said this bottom lane is now away. That's the first dragon of the game and potentially a dive as TheShy has to use the ultimate. The equalizer tearing down this minion wave and preventing the dive.
Yeah, that's just really smart heads-up play by TheShy, and I think that one of the criticisms I've had of Bin this split is that he's been pretty susceptible to weak siding and being taken down in that weak side, whereas at least in this instance, TheShy has heads-up played, make sure that he knows, okay, this is my timer to get dove, let me prevent that possibility, and waste, even if it is just 10 seconds of Beichuan's time, it's wasting time nonetheless, because he's now down just one camp. He's going to ding level 6 off of this Grom pit and into the blue as well. But it is giving Jiejie a little bit of a window to support on that top side and make sure that actually this Kalista and Meiko can't begin that snowball. Because a reminder, right, we've had 7 minutes of time. We've still not seen First Blood. We need BLG to do things early on. This is the expectation, is that on maybe 1 or 2 items is when their composition will fully come to the fold and really be quite highly sought after. But they've not done anything just yet, and they probably could be. They are a stronger team at this stage in the game with the composition they've drafted.
Yeah, I think at this point you just have to wait for level 6s, especially for On. I think a big focus for BLG is just going to be making sure that they can walk up, get their ultimates, and maybe make a play on this first set of grubs here. I'm kind of looking at this. I'm looking at Elk's inventory. I see a serrated Dirk, and I have to think this is lethality Kalista coming on through. We'll have to save some of our comments and reservations right now. Making a play, but it's onto On. He has no ultimate. He's level 5. They're trading a lot, and that was so much invested. Fate's Call is going to pull him out of the curtain call, and there's a fight around these grubs. 2 grubs already going over to BLG. Rookie has now used the command Shockwave to try to stop the rest of BLG from walking on through. This is a messy fight. There are skill shots flying everywhere. Nobody goes down, and BLG will get a majority of the grubs here.
A double Shockwave from Rookie isn't able to amount to anything, and the only real summoner spells expended here are Meiko's Flash. Heal used on the top side by On as well, as he did get caught up in a quick engage, but Meiko now summonerless, and it looks like as well down on that bot side, TheShy walking up to this top side to attempt to make a play happen around those grubs, does end up losing out on 4 of 6 minions there down on that bot side. So another small advantage going over to BLG's top laner. Slowly here, Alk. Just a couple of advantages that BLG are picking up. They get another kill.
Oh, and there it is. It's going to be First Blood going over to Elk and On. That trade earlier on that we saw from them, it whittled away at their HP bars. And unfortunately, Gala thought he was safe enough by himself to be able to pick up that wave. That ends up not being the case. He loses his life and both of his summoner spells.
And that's the really big hit now for BLG. Like, they needed that little gut punch onto IG early on, and they found it. And our reservations about the Kallista's late game damage may end up being true as we look at the first item picked up for Elk as he finishes the Youmuu's Ghostblade on Callista to begin with. That expects or sort of tells us why the Halo Blades has been picked up. You can offset not having that attack speed. You're looking for 3 quick autos, a Q to go in after the fact, and then rend, and that's kind of your one-shot combo. If that doesn't work out, that's when you've got a bit of a problem.
Yeah. There is no ultimate here for on that Pop Blossom, no longer available, so maybe IG with some of theirs coming back up, they can try to make a play. It looks like potentially a dive onto this top side. TheShy needs to be a bit careful. There'll be a ward that spots out Beichuan, but they have no eyes as to where On is at the moment. And without very many objectives, we've got a dragon spawning in a minute's time. How does IG end up kind of pushing their vision forward? A lot of this seems to be BLG putting their bot lane in mid, seeing if they can flex around the map, but especially with Knight moving on over to the top side, I feel like this is BLG saying we are just going to try to stabilize this game and try to push some incremental advantages.
Yeah, they're playing very heavily for these neutrals, and Bin now's the one under fire. Meiko, Jiejie, a lot of point and click.
Okay, teleport is invested. It's Knight going to be there first. Public execution to dodge out on the solar flare. Meiko potentially going down next. It's the flash from Knight. It's the winds of war that blow away IG and bring themselves to another kill for Bilibili.
Yeah, and IG just getting a little too big for their britches here. As soon as they see that TP come through, they have to disengage, but they're caught in 2 minds. And they're going to go again. TP just to the top side now by Bin.
Hey, they said, look, if Knight's gonna stay here, then hell, we'll just take a second one if we want to. The first dive may have not worked, but now the dragon spawns. You know that Bin has teleported away. They're not gonna even play for the dragon. They're gonna instead take their recalls, spend their gold, and be happy with the fact that they may have lost 1 member, but they ended up getting a ton of summoner spells.
And that was a little bit of a head scratcher for us. We were expecting BLG to play very heavily around these dragons, and they, may yet still do that, but they're going to be at a disadvantage when looking for it. With no shockwave on Rookie, solar flare for Meiko just now available. There's, or just about to be coming up to available. There's an opportunity for IG to take this fight and get a little bit of a glimpse as to what happened down on the river in the picture-in-picture. It was On getting chunked out and almost taken down by Rookie before this play. Forcing the flash out of the Nico is a really big deal. As we now see on this top side, it's Rookie taking the rough end of a trade versus Bin, but a reminder, if we do see a fight around this dragon, it's TP for Rookie, and he's going to be able to join that fight, but looks like there's nothing really doing down there, and it could end up just being BLG slow taking it.
I mean, we're like, oh, maybe IG will start up the dragon here, but look at where Meiko is. He's going to have to make a cross-country trip if they want to be here. Nico's already in the area. They're getting priority of this wave. And very easily, I think that Bin can try to trap Rookie under his turret and force him to use his teleport. So it's going to be priority in 2 lanes coming out from Bilibili. They're going to take control of the Tri-Brush as well. Remember, On, no flash, but he has this Pop Blossom and no vision coming in from Invictus.
Beichuan? He just keep his verdicted nothing.
Oh no, well that's an important ultimate. That is also the teleport coming in from TheShy. The ultimate, the Grand Starfall, flies forward. On, hits nothing with the Pop Blossom. Elk is roasted alive. The curtain call is coming on through. Can BLG fight outside of this dragon pit? They'll finally be able to grab themselves the feats of warfare.
Nobody's got smite!
Nobody's got smite! Jiejie's gonna just straight up take the dragon, and BLG are gonna fight their way out. Finally, after this objective has fallen, it is multiple kills. It is as sloppy as possible, but this is exactly what we expect from BLG versus IG.
I don't even know what happened in that team fight. Alk, there was just a lot of pretty colours, and now On's just killed himself to walk up to root Gala. Bin flashes forward. And this is the craziness of the LPL. In game number 1 of our best of 5, I think IG... Okay, cool. Youmuu's Q flash from Elk takes down Gala. He's annoyed that he got killed off the rip with no contributions in that final fight.
I don't even know if we want to see the replay of that. I'll be 100% honest with you.
Yeah. So it started with a really clean execution from IG. That is worth saying. And I'll hold on that just in case we do get the replay to kind of break that down. But BLG come out on top in the back half of that fight. Or honestly, throughout the entire fight, they do get a couple of kills onto Ambessa. A couple kills here going on tonight as well. So kills into those solo laners are always pretty valuable. And again, want to highlight, first of all, this is Beichuan. Gets missed in Fog of War, but he does use Keeper's Verdict and does do nothing with it. But then there's this really clean execute, though. Look at Jiejie here. Starts out just channeling immediately onto Alk, and it's paired up with a great engage from Meiko. Only a certain amount of cleansing that you can do, and TheShy on a good flank angle as well takes down the Kalista. And then we just descend into Anarchy. On with a really good sidestep on the 4th shot, keeps himself alive for long enough. But the amount of damage that we got to see come immediately onto Jiejie and Meiko on their initial engage kind of set the tides for this fight as a whole. Made it really difficult for them to actually contribute too much after the fact. And a great sidestep from Knight there, dodging out on one of Jiejie's Qs means that he's able to survive as well.
Okay, we're coming back to live. Beichuan's going to send this engage, snap him into the wall. Keeper's Verdict lands this time. Jiejie is not going to be as lucky. Another kill goes over to Elk, and we have to imagine Meiko is next to fall. 2 kills for free coming in for BLG as they grab themselves the Herald as well.
Yeah, taking topside objectives up against the Poppy on blue side, not necessarily the easiest thing in the world, and IG find that one out the hard way as they lose their support and jungler for stepping into that Rift Herald pit. Beichuan on a pink ward, doesn't care, going to take this down quite nicely, and that's going to be a pretty big boost for BLG again. Now up to 3,500 gold is their advantage at the exact time that their composition is going to start spiking. We need to see them start to run away with this game, and they've got all the tools to be able to do so. They've hit their almost apex of items and their apex of strength. This is that opportunity now for them to run away with the game.
We had some questions. You know, we were coming in, we were like, okay, the first 6 levels of the game, we were kind of questioning whether or not BLG were going to get a lot done here, but alongside winning that dragon fight and then immediately snowballing that into getting a turret as well as 2 more kills and a herald, BLG, it seems like, hey, we got our ultimates, our dive composition is working now, and we're really starting to snowball the rest of this game. On's going to get a little bit of damage down, but they're going to turn this right back on to Jiejie. The entrance from Knight gets immediately countered by a shockwave from Rookie, but it is more members of IG falling. Rookie is going to be the last one to go, and they thought they were turning on to BLG. Well, guess what? BLG make a snap play. They take down Rookie. They also summon the Rift Herald. Everything is going Bilibili's way in this game number 1.
And that's the exact fight that BLG needed. It was handed to them by Jiejie there as he engages onto who he thought was Bin. But, you know, kind of going on to a Nico. Either way, the engage at that time, even though they've got numbers, unfortunately not well thought out, not well planned, as a double TP, one by Bin's TP, the other from the hero's entrance from Knight. The semi-global threat of that Galio again catching IG a little bit off guard as they go for a play that they didn't really have the rights to be able to go for. So they see the Ambessa top. He knows that this is going to be a Nico that he's hopping on. Unfortunately, despite, again, another really good shockwave from Rookie, catches out on 3. He's not quite at that point in the game where it's truly meaningful damage. You can see Knight and Beichuan taking 300 HP. And this Ambessa is at the point where she's actually just ripping through people. Rookie taken to just a fraction of HP even without the public execution. Really, again, goes to show you that Bin, maybe we had those concerns about him picking up new champions early on in the season. Now we're in playoffs. He knows exactly what he needs to be doing.
Oh, yeah. I'm just confused, right? Like, for IG, we're like, okay, you guys can sack a little bit. The fact that they even got a dragon in the first place, the first 2, is really, really good. They're a team that's supposed to take this a little slower, play the side lanes a little bit better than your opponents, and that has just not been the case here. Feels like they are getting sucked in to try to find fights versus their opponents, and BLG are saying, sure, man, give us the freebies. We will take those. You're walking straight into us. And it's turning into a bigger gold advantage. Now we're 19 minutes in, 4,500 gold advantage going over to BLG, and another dragon as well. Everything is turning up trumps for Bilibili on the blue side.
One of my main concerns for IG this game is how they actually kill Elk. He's now got Edge of Night and Cleanse available, and that backline access is limited pretty exclusively to the support and jungle, and between the 2 of an Edge of Night and a Cleanse, I actually think there's more than enough for Elk to get out to safety. If we pair that with the fact that On can also peel quite heavily with that Fate's Call as well, not something that I see going particularly well for IG. Unless they can play at those ranges that we talked about in the draft. This composition is one that can look to play on long range. They can fish with solar flares, and then when the time is right, look to commit to that engage with the Pantheon, with the Leona as well. But it's about doing that legwork to begin with. It's about finding those harpoons that can break Edge of Night. It's about finding the Solar Flare that can force a cleanse from Elk before an objective really starts. And it's about making sure that Gala's not the one face-checking this and making sure that there's actually a little bit of safety here.
When are we going to nerf Meiko clone duration? Like, it was literally just standing there for a solid 8 seconds. That seems like that shouldn't be a thing anymore.
Free ward.
Yeah, exactly. Just a free ward. He just stands there. Everybody knows that it's not going to get hit, so what's the point? And I think, thankfully, for Invictus Gaming is they still have some time in this draft, especially the fact that they are hitting some of their second items here. They are a team that is going to get a little bit stronger and still have ways to fight, but even you look at Knight right now. He's going the full tank Galio build. Who is killing this guy after, like, maybe 30 seconds in a team fight? Yeah. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. And for BLG, they're kind of keeping the pace of the game at the side that they want to here. So Otacon has now spawned. Another dragon will be up and available in 3 minutes' time. IG need to get creative, and they need to be able to stabilize this game. Meiko just dodging out, finally gets caught by a public execution. But you may have walked a little too far onto your red side jungle. Full snap engage comes out. 2 picks easily going over to BLG.
And that's not just now complete control over the bot side, that's Otacon as well that's going to be picked up single-handedly for BLG, and quite easily as well. A really good little engage from On down on that bot side. Even Flash is predicting that Jiejie might try to escape with his Flash, but ensuring that the Pantheon falls for what is the 4th time this game is exactly what it is that BLG are looking for. They'll take that Otacon down and now have a really good advantage moving up to this top side where Rookie, even with Phase Rush, is going to be in trouble.
Bye-bye. All right, Tangle Barbs lands. He's trying to walk down. What are we doing, Rookie brother? We're getting spaced by On. Doesn't land it. No deadly flourish. On. Laugh at him. Spam the emotes on this guy. It is a full-on attempt. IG are desperate. They are looking for a Nico, and all they're going to get for it is some sad B emotes and more of their base. All of their structures starting to get raised.
Yeah, a really good set of sidesteps here from Nico, just making sure that On's exactly where he needs to be, and more importantly, kind of flexing on Rookie, forcing the flash out of the Orianna is again incredibly important, and this is why I was sort of speaking about the weakness of the Orianna at the moment, right? This is Seraph's being finished, yes, great, but that's not a damage item. It's very much geared toward keeping you safe. The Void Staff coming through again, don't get me wrong. A great item, but it's still not even finished. I think that the pairing of Bloodletter's Curse plus Void Staff between TheShy and Rookie is actually pretty smart for the two of them. The Bloodletter's Curse is going to remove a little bit of MR to begin with, and then Void Staff is going to have a better advantage or be able to penetrate that much more of their damage.
Oh my god.
I mean, I guess this is something that we didn't quite get to catch on the bot side, as TheShy seemed to get walked down by Bin, to be honest.
Oh yeah, he just straight up leashed him. He just dog walked him. That was crazy. Good job from Bin. Putting in a performance on the Mbessa. I will happily say that this side quest has been completed. We can put this to bed, especially in a fearless system. We don't have to see Mbessa again. But 30 seconds before this next dragon, IG can maybe rest easy knowing that this dragon isn't the soul, but I feel like they are running out of time and options here in game number 1 for ways they can kind of play this one out. Maybe, just maybe, if Gala is able to finish this Infinity Edge, there's a chance, but you don't even have the front line to be able to do much here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very big hope, and Beichuan, you can see Deadman's Plate finished. He is zooming around the rift right now, 3 levels up over Jiejie. The raw stats that you get from levels are just so insanely powerful that anybody trying to take down this Poppy is going to struggle. Just looking across the board, yes, there's a, 6,500, 7,000 gold lead at the minute, but the level leads across the board as well. There's 3 level advantage top, jungle, 2 levels for the mid laners. Like, overall, having an 8 level lead across the team is an insane amount of value. That's another 4,000 gold worth of stats that you just picked up by having more levels in your back pocket, more experience to go with.
On one hand, I will say, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Part of that is also the Thornbound Otacon. They're just getting a lot of experience from all these purified blood petals here. So we'll see what else BLG can do. They are now on Soul Point. Baron is spawning in 30 seconds. I'm going to be honest, Rude. I don't think we're seeing an Elder. I don't think we're seeing this Soul spawn. I think that BLG might be looking to close on out, especially with 2 grubs on their side.
Yeah,
Beichuan is making the route of a century. Finds the engage right onto Meiko. He's gone. Bin may have missed out on the public execution, but don't worry, we'll get a complete display of BLG smashing IG here in Game 1.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just once again a little bit of support from Jiejie and Meiko, helping Gala step forward in a position where they really shouldn't be. Gala is forced to flash out just in case Beichuan finds the angle onto the Jin instead of finding it onto the Leona. But that's not going to be Byron. I mean, that'll lead into probably them taking the game, and if not, quite easily into them taking the Soul, no doubt. But this probably just ends up being game number 1 quite nicely and neatly, I would say, wrapped up by BLG. Their win condition was win around that 1 to 2 item marker, and now they've hit them 2 items across the board for all 4 topside carries, and they might go back to base, pick up some extra components, but that's going to be pretty much it. Signed, sealed, and delivered for game number 1.
Oh, Beichuan flash. Thank you for the picture-in-picture on this one from our observers. Just made the play happen, and that's exactly what we wanted to see from Beichuan coming into this roster. There was a lot of expectations. Obviously, you're filling big shoes. Wei historically has been an amazing jungler. You look at Shun, obviously, from last year, taking them all the way to Worlds Grand Finals. But Beichuan coming in, you're coming off of a team in Thunder Talk who you've been a part of for multiple years. You were really kind of like a, were you going to be good enough to be on this roster? But he's kind of just a just get stuff done kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this in the pre-show as well. He's been the role player for BLG, right? Like, what do you need from me? I will do it. And I mean, what they need now is somebody to pick off Rookie, who's I thought maybe a little too far forward. These tier 2 turrets are notoriously difficult to defend, so with the keeper's verdict sort of threatening, good to see that he holds on to it, because that shortens the cooldown significantly. Maybe have another look at this tier 3 turret and start to break open the base.
Okay, oh, well, Bin, public execution misses again. A shockwave that lands on him and deals absolutely no damage. Pop Blossom just to stop him. Fade's call to bring him back, and Beichuan will find that kill. TheShy's knocked back to his base. You're going to have pure spectator tickets to watch your Nexus go down. Another kill here for BLG. The inhibitor soon to fall. BLG look like they can do no wrong. They can chase him under their Nexus turrets, and it is just child's play for them.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of speaks to how far ahead they are. The fact that Knight is flashing in under double Nexus turrets and still doesn't go down. That's probably going to be game 1 here, Rookie and TheShy with a last-ditch effort.
And BLG, we had questions if this was going to be as close as it looked during the regular season. They're going to take a single Nexus turret. They're going to play time and just say, we'll win in a minute and a half. It is going to be the potential Dragon Soul, the Infernal Soul spawning as BLG... they get away with all the riches. They are 12,000 gold up at 28 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, right, spectators looking on at this will go, why didn't they just end? The downside for BLG not winning there is that they will win in 2 minutes. The potential throw is that IG, like, if they try to end there and it goes badly and they give over all of these shutdowns, it gives IG a much better chance of fighting on their Soul. Whereas Jiejie, who's just been caught again, just going to give them another fight.
Everybody's fighting. We got a fight on 2 fronts. But hey, you can try to split apart all of these games. Every single one of these fights, they will finally get this shutdown onto the Mbessa. But the rest of BLG will rout them on. Gets the Pop Blossom. It is a triple kill coming in through for Elk and this Lethality Callista. Beichuan says thank you. Next. Let's go on to game number 2. BLG 25-6. Absolutely dominate Invictus Gaming.
And you were right here, Alk. There is no Soul spawning. There is no Soul being picked up. BLG don't even need the Baron this time round. They're just going to spot IG, who are walking around in their jungle, who, to be honest, are probably also saying, all right, thank you, next. Let's get into game number 2 and maybe put on a bit of a better performance.
All right, well, look, it's a short keeper's verdict. It's going to be one where you get to see the back of your base. The rest of BLG, maybe KDA padding here. They'll get a couple more kills to end this one off. But Bilibili, they strike first, and they strike hot here in game number 1.
A solid Game 1 performance. We had questions going in for the first 5-6 minutes. What are they going to be able to do? And those questions were met with the best answers that BLG could find. Significant amount of engages coming through, whether it was on, whether it was bin, it didn't really matter. The rest of BLG all stepped into this, and I think for Beichuan as well, even though there were a couple of those quite funny blunders where he's keeper's verdicting the Drake Pit and where he's channeling the Poppycopter and not actually throwing it, but he still actually was the one who, in those crucial situations, was the one finding those engages and starting off those fights.
I just loved the way that we got to see from BLG. They were very snappy with their engages. You saw Beichuan kind of following on through with this Poppy, on as well with this Meiko, eventually really providing a lot of that crowd control. And even from the lane, we were kind of questioning what was going to happen with this Kalista Neeko. There were some questions that we saw, but I think pretty quickly answered once he had access to the Pop Blossom. He's kind of everywhere and getting a lot done this game.
And I think this is a really good game as well to highlight why we are such a fan of Elk in particular, because so many Kalistas right in that situation. Cookie cutter Kalista build, I'm going Blade, I'm going Ginsu's. But he knew that actually this game he's up against 4 squishy champions plus a Leona who we're probably going to rip through anyway. My way to find a fight and to win this game is by blowing up the first target and then running through the team fight afterwards. So goes Qmax, goes Lethality, Hail of Blades, and never really gets punished for it either, right? If we'd have made it to that hyper late game, then yes, maybe we could have seen the Kalista fall off, but Elk found a triple kill in that final fight. Like, he was absolutely fine to continue doing the damage that he needed to and be the carry for BLG in those damage fronts.
And if we kind of go into diagnosis mode for Invictus, I know it's only one game, there's only so much we could take off of that, but what do we feel was kind of the issue for Invictus, and are there any quick solves that we can do in the middle of a best of 5?
I feel like identifying their win condition was something they weren't particularly fond of, right? We knew that they were a scaling composition. They were more than happy to try and find fights on timers where their champions were weaker, and that really cost them. They maybe felt a little bit pressured by this Pantheon and Leona duo that they'd picked up. You know, these are 2 really good facilitatory engage picks to begin with. But when you look at the damage that they've got, you know, 1 item Rumble, yeah, pretty decent. But 1 item Ori, 1 item Jin, we're not feeling those damage markers coming through. And when you look at 1 item Kalista and 1 item Galio, those are just completely different beasts.
Yeah. Look, Elk decided, like we said, we're going to go for a much shorter timer on the game, going for this Lethality Kalista. We were thinking, okay, like, is this going to be the opportunity? I know that that's been nerfed and kind of changed over the patches. This Youmuu's Ghostblade kind of giving him some more early power in comparison to maybe a longer skirmish with Blade of the Ruin King and the Rage Blade the like. But we're fighting on 1 item, like you had said, is a Seraphs, which makes it very hard for Rookie to die, but also kind of nerfs him in terms of his damage. I wonder what the adaptations are going to be coming into game number 2, especially when we talk about our draft priorities and a lot of these champions now being gone.
Yeah, I do think that we weren't... I was expecting Rumble to be taken on the first pick by BLG. Instead, they took the Neeko. So with both of those now obviously out of bounds and off the table, I do expect to see some more pivots toward those early aggro junglers. I think that for Jiejie in particular here, this game felt relatively neutered on that Pantheon. Didn't really get to see him do a right lot of things, and maybe a look back towards Xin Zhao, back towards a Vi, which albeit was banned, but something that's just a little more cut and dry and feels more akin to what we've seen from Jiejie in the past, could be a way for them to make those plays, because the early impact of this Pantheon was not felt.
And do you feel, depending on the results of this series, and we can kind of tap in on this a little bit later, you don't have to give me a super exact answer here, when do we stop doubting Beichuan? Because he was the best part of a fumbling Thunder Talk roster for multiple years. Obviously in Split 1, they had that big resurgence in terms of being able to find that win versus BLG. But when do we actually say maybe Beichuan is, you know, providing and pulling his weight on this team?
I think he's pulling his weight. I don't think that he's a same caliber jungler as our Jun and Kanabi just yet. And it's those matchups versus Jun and Kanabi where we can see the different styles of jungler, because I don't think there's any doubt that Beichuan's a different style jungler to those, because they are pulling out carries on the regular, and Beichuan we've seen pull out the let's call them supportive utility junglers.
I love you, Sejuani! Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Exactly. I will play Skarner for you, no doubt. I think that when we see Beichuan still playing those junglers, but him having the same level or if not more impact than the carry junglers that I'm going to see from Jun, from Kanavi, that's when we can start to give him the credit that he deserves. But at this time, it's not been the case.
Sure. Again, maybe this is not the series that we need to see that. Maybe if they end up winning this and go up against TES in a few days' time, maybe we start to have that conversation again. But waiting for player of the game, I feel like this is a game that you kind of can look around. I feel like On maybe deserves some more flowers. Maybe you give it to someone like Bin, but I don't know what you're feeling on this one.
Yeah, I'd head towards Bin just for his contributions to team fights and was pretty much winning out throughout the laning phase. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Could have been Beichuan as well. I do think he started off a lot of those fights and got them going, but Bin was really, really consistent in this game.
Yeah, there are a couple of missed ultimates. That's the only reason I might, knock him down a few marks, but still in a fantastic performance, and especially on a champion that is a bit newer and someone that we had some questions on for Bin. But we're going to kick it to a short break, but before we do, have you heard... oh, wait, we don't have to do the coffee read anymore. Awesome! All right, we're going to break. We'll be back here with game number 2.